I'm Troy Kriz, aka the Javateer. Today I'd like to introduce you to my weapon of choice, the press pot. It's otherwise known as the French press. And although it's been around since 1929, it hasn't gained any real popularity. Hard to believe considering how inexpensive and easy they are to use. Also, they take up very little space. They look very stylish. They don't use electricity, and they also brew the perfect cup of coffee. And what I mean by the perfect cup of coffee is the cup of coffee that you prefer, because you're in complete control of the brewing process when using a press pot. And if that's not good enough, if you come in a little closer, we also get extra flavor. See the little oils that form on the freshly roasted coffee beans? Those oils normally get robbed when you use the traditional paper filters. I mean, the paper filters do their job. They keep the grounds out of the coffee, but they're also going to keep away those oils as well. Now with the press pot, what we have, instead of a paper filter, is a metal mesh. And the metal mesh, of course, is going to let our oils seep through, but it's going to keep our grounds down at the bottom of our press pot. But there's a small trade-off. When you use a press pot, they recommend that you use ground coffee, actually a coarse ground. And there's different types of grinds, but for a press pot, it's coarse ground. You can see how thick and chunky these grounds are. These are typically what you buy in a store when you buy coffee that comes pre-ground. It's going to come used for a filter type of machine, and these are what we typically get. Now, they recommend the actual ground coffee, but I find in my experience you can use the pre-ground. You just gotta think, and you just have to understand that some of those are going to go through the metal mesh. So what you're going to need is something like a metal strainer, to hold it over your coffee, so you don't get any of the grounds. It will make it a little more difficult to press when we get to that point, because it does kind of make a sludge in a way. But I find that stirring and then pressing immediately right after the stir, that's not really you're not going to have to rustle around with it too much. But we're going to get to that in just a second, and I'm going to start showing you, once I start showing you how to use the press pot. Okay, so what I have here is a 6-cup Bodum press pot. Bodum's been making press pots since 1957, and they come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. They make them even in different colors. Besides the glass press pot that we're looking at right here, they also make a plastic one that you can use to go. They also make a metal thermos one that keeps the heat in a lot longer. But just for the purposes today, we're going to be using the glass 6-cup. Now, what they suggest is that you use 1 tablespoon of coffee per 4 ounces of water. And that's, again, we're going on recommended suggestion. So, after we make the press pot, you try it at home with the recommended amounts, and you think it's too weak, of course you're going to add a little bit more coffee or maybe a little less water. If you think it's too strong, a little less coffee, just play with it. Because again, the press pot's all about individuality, and it's all about that perfect cup of coffee for your taste. So let's get started. Okay, so now we talked about the 1 tablespoon per 4 ounces. What I need, of course, because it's a 6-cup press pot, is I'm going to need 48 ounces, or it's going to be 48 ounces altogether. So that means I'm going to need 12 tablespoons of coffee. Now, if you go out and you buy what's called a coffee spoon, this is going to be actually 2 tablespoons already pre-measured for you. So what I really only need is 6. So I got 1, 2, and again, this is our coarse ground coffee that's been suggested. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we're all ready with the coffee. Now we're going to add our water. Your water should be anywhere between 195 degrees to 205. Also use good drinking water. Pretend that you're serving the water to a guest from a faraway country, a guest that is from a faraway country that you intend on consuming. That's how you should be treating your coffee. And again, I want to make sure that all my grounds get wet. And you don't want to go too far up because you want to leave just enough room, of course, to put our plunger top. Now, I want the beans to all be nice and saturated. They recommend that you can use chopsticks to stir. I, of course, never learned how to use chopsticks, so I'm going to use a big wooden spoon. I say wooden because glass and metal do not work real well together. And go ahead and give it a nice little stir. Now, of course, the other trade-off is time. We're going to let it sit for 4 minutes. Seems like a little longer than an automatic drip machine, but when you really think about it, it's only 1 minute more. And it just gives you 1 more minute to savor up the anticipation. So, we're going to go ahead and put on our top. And make sure that the teeth are facing the lid. But we do not press yet. Again, wait 4 minutes, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so it's been about 4 minutes that our coffee's been brewing inside our press pot. But before we get in too much of a hurry to go ahead and press, what I usually like to do, and I suggest, is I give it another quick little stir. Just to make sure. And of course, put it on. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to press down very so easily, just one fluid motion straight down. Try not to go to the sides because again, this will splash up. Also bring your grounds up over the metal mesh. And as I said before, I'm using the course so you can see how easy this is. If you do have to go and use the store-bought pre-ground coffee, it may stop. And if it does stop on the way down, my suggestion is stop with it, pull the plunger back up, which would be deep pressing, and go ahead and rinse it off real quick and then try again and maybe stir it up again. But take your time. Keep in mind, you don't want to scold yourself. You don't want coffee all over the place. Just, take it easy. Okay, and now we're down at the bottom. Hang on to your lid and then pour. And what we have is what is considered the perfect cup of coffee. There it is in all its glory. Ah, delicious. Now, keep in mind that when you use a press pot, that as we're standing around and we're mingling and we're having a good time, our coffee is still brewing. So in about 10 minutes from now, this is going to be some pretty strong stuff. What I recommend is that you put it in a carafe. Maybe put it off to the side, serve as needed. If nobody else, of course, wants the coffee and you really don't want to throw it out because it costs quite a bit of money, and you like cold coffee, put it in a carafe, stick it in the refrigerator. But if you are a fan of cold coffee, I got another suggestion. The press pot works equally as well making cold coffee. Again, you follow the same instructions, except this time we're going to pour cold water inside our press pot, put it in the refrigerator, and let it sit there for a good 10 to 12 hours. So instead of having heat brew our coffee, we're going to rely on time to brew our coffee. So again, it's been in there for about 10, 12 hours. I'm going to give this one a little stir too. Make it a little easier on myself. Press down. And of course this one wants to fight a little bit. But again, as you see, I'm not going to get carried away and prove who's stronger, because I don't want it all over me. Okay, we got our cup of ice, hold on to our lid, pour, and we have iced coffee. Fantastic. So, just showed you both ways of making using a press pot, the nice heated way, cold way. I have, of course, a few other videos that I can get into how to make a form of a latte and a cappuccino, an espresso, and a mocha using a press pot. I say it's a form because we can't call it espresso. So come back when we have the other videos, show you some really great other ideas of what to do. It'll be a lot of fun, and stay caffeinated.